Hi Reed, Mike here. This is for you. This is how I prep my cases for long range shooting. What I do is I take the case, it's once fired, and I have a Sinclair, which I bought from Brownells, decapping tool. It doesn't size the round, just decaps and removes the primer just like what we did with the military round. So I do that, and then just like the military round, I'll take my primer pocket uniformer, run it in the primer pocket. Then what I will do, which I didn't do on the military case, but you can if you want, if you're going to be using that military case for long range shooting, is I run my flash hole deburr in it. And when I'm doing these operations, the last two, the primer pocket uniforming and the flash hole deburring, I always hold it over the trash can that I keep over here by my reloading bench, because you're going to get a lot of brass flying. Wear gloves while you're doing this, work gloves and glasses, because those little pieces of brass do go flying. Once I've done that, goes in the tumbler, gets it clean, gets the dirt off. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this through my RCBS as I was. This one is an RCBS. This one is a Redding Type S die. I use the RCBS for short range. I'm using the Redding Type S for long range. And I've got the .242 titanium nitrate bushing in here. And what that does, when I size that case, it's going to take the neck from the fired size of 227 down to 213. 0.213, and the datum line, if I were to measure that on a precision mic tool, it's going to be about 0.049. After sizing, I do 2/100ths of an inch setback, or is that 2/1000ths? 2/1000ths setback to a 0.047. Now I've done that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here for my Gracie power trimmer, run that on in, and that is going to cut my case down to a uniform length of 0.755 as I was. So that's right in the middle of what the suggested case length is for the 223. A 223 should be anywhere from a 1.75 to a 1.76. If I'm wrong, you can fire me and I'll refund your money. So I've done that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, if I'm going to be shooting VLD, very low drag bullet, which is what you're going to want for long range accuracy anyway, is this Lyman VLD deburr. And just going to go in, I give it a couple of twists. You don't want to give it a lot because you don't want a razor's edge on here. You just want enough to ease that VLD, that very low drag bullet, in there. If you're shooting a regular bullet, you can use your typical 45-degree deburring, dechafing tool. Now I don't have to, because I use the Gracie trimmer, which not only trims it, but it deburrs the outside. I don't need to worry about dechafing that. But I always check it for burrs. If I do have them, I've got my handy dandy RCBS deburring tool. Although they call it a burring tool. I don't want burrs, I want them deed. So I've done all that. Now what I want to do is I'm going to run this through a mandrel. What the mandrel does, because I've removed the expander from the sizing die, because the expander, when it comes up, it really stresses the brass, because the expander ball goes down and it pulls up on the shoulder and it pulls up on the neck. What the mandrel is going to do is it's going to go down into the mouth, and it's going to seat on the full length of that neck, and it's going to give me a nice uniform uniform edge all the way around. I'm going to end up with a .222 inside here. Uniform, perfectly round, no tight spaces on the bullet. Now I've got to set the primer. For that, I just use a just your standard handy dandy RCBS primer, hand priming tool. It's got a tray, holds a lot. Primers on there. Bench rest shooters like doing them one by one, but that's rather time consuming. The RCBS die, as was the hand primer, you just load that thing in there and you press it. You can feel the primer sitting, and if you really want to see where that primer pocket uniforming pays off, take a case that you haven't uniformed, try setting a primer, and then do one that you have uniformed in dBird. You will feel a huge difference. It's going to be so much easier setting that. Easier is better. Now, when it comes to loading the powder, the best loading blocks I have found were old 9mm bullet case holders from ammunition. They hold the 223 perfectly, and they're open on the bottom for when you ultimately will double charge a case and the powder fills over. So that's why when I'm filling these with powder, I keep it on a paper plate so that when the powder overflows the case, it's going to go through the case and through the grates on this 9mm ammunition holder onto my paper plate. I can now shake it off. I've got the powder on my paper plate. Dump that into a container to reuse later, because we don't want to waste powder. Now when it comes time to seat the bullet, what I use is a Forester Ultra Bullet Seater die. Now this die on the top is adjustable. It hits on the ogive or ogive or however you want to say it of the bullet. And what I do, I don't seat the bullet all in one stroke. I'll seat it about halfway and then rotate the case and seat it on up. Again, by rotating it, that'll help ensure that the bullet gets seated straight up. When I seat my rounds for the VLDs, the very low drag bullets, I seat them so that you're shooting right on the lands. And that's another topic for another time. If you're shooting Sierra Match Kings, you can load those to 5/1000 of an inch off the lands and shoot all day long. So I hope that helps you. Again, this isn't my idea. I got it from Glenn Zedeker and his book, The Competition AR, and his book, Competition Reloading. I also got some information from John Feemster, who wrote Black Magic. Both good books. I highly recommend them.